Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Work-Life Balance. Live, strive, and balance. And we are women. We have a natural ability to do that. So today we're going to take a nice informal approach to teaching you about work-life balance and talk about our own personal experiences and how we've managed to have our cake and eat it too. Okay? And to know that there is no one size fits all. It's really only about your set of priorities, and you have to kind of know yourself first before you try to balance it all. Okay? So with me today, I have one of our wonderful students, Samia Osman. Samia is going to introduce herself at the mic, tell a little bit about our background, and a little bit more about our career path. And then I have Dr. Teresa Kirschgraber from Indiana University, our president-elect. She's going to take over the reins from me this weekend. And I will introduce myself last. So go for it, Samia.
Thank you, Dr. So hi, my name is Samia Osman. I'm a third-year MD candidate at Harvard Medical School. I'm also a master's in public policy candidate at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. So a little bit about myself. I grew up in Arizona, and I actually took 2 years off before going to med school, working as a high school biology teacher and also Fulbright scholar over in Taiwan. And so in terms of life, I have a husband. He actually goes to Yale Medical School, so we're doing long distance, and I also have a 1-year-old daughter. So that's about me.
So, and I hope that this will be more of a discussion, you know, and we want to hear from you, not just your questions, but just what your life is like. So, Teresa Rohr Kirschgraber, I do internal medicine in adolescent. I grew up in Los Angeles. Oh, I'm sorry. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I grew up in Los Angeles and did undergrad at Cal State University Long Beach, went to Cornell for medical school. At the time I was in med school, women were approximately 30% of the class. So as my friends said, it was pretty good pickings for us girls. And that's where I found my husband. We were both medical students together. We did residency in Cleveland at University Hospitals, I in medicine, he in pathology. We got married the day after internship ended. So we were on call in the unit the night before and got off in time to get to our rehearsal dinner. He then went into pathology and I stayed in medicine. I got pregnant with my first child during my second year of residency, actually within 6 weeks of our wedding. So I was one of the first of my group to have a child during residency. Most had either had them before or after. We have 3 children now. They're 24, 23, and 19. I've always worked full-time, and currently I'm the Chief Physician Executive for Eskenazi for the Outpatient Center, and also the Executive Director of the IU National Center of Excellence for Women's Health. I do 0.5 clinical and 0.5 administrative. And we had daycare for the most part, and then we had a nanny after that, and that was fabulous. And the empty nest thing is really, really nice.
Thank you, Teresa. Well, we have very varied paths, but we all have the one goal of trying to achieve that work-life balance. So you know me as current president now. The journey to this office was definitely a fun and big roller coaster ride. My husband and I met 18 years ago in medical school during orientation. He proposed to me almost immediately. We were married, and now we have 4 children who are 16, 12, 9, and my little guy who's 4. And throughout our journey, I've gotten involved in many different things. I even broke a little bit of the traditional practice mold and ended up opening my own private practice, a concierge internal medicine practice, almost 7 years ago, and haven't looked back since. And continue on with a lot of leadership involvement in different arenas outside of medicine. I do get involved, though, on the institutional review boards for clinical research, and I host and anchor a medical show. And that's also kind of taking off in another direction. But, in the car lines, I found a little time to write 2 books on work-life balance, and we want to share our strategies with you. But as Teresa said, we're going to make this interactive. We want to hear your questions. We want to ask us anything. Nothing is off limits. And we want to make sure that we can share our strategies for balance with you. Any questions from the audience? Rather than us going through a set template, we'd like for you to be involved. So who's going to be the lucky volunteer? Don't be shy. Okay, excellent.
Well, do you have living help?
Great question. I'll answer and then we'll go down the line.
And then what are the questions? How many hours do you sleep every day? How long do you exercise?
Great question. Fitness and wellness has to be present in order for you to be able to balance everything. For me, I find time to do like an hour of Orange Theory fitness when I can. Usually it's a Sunday when the kids are already doing their homework, my husband is home, and then I could just hit the gym and just quickly take care of everything. But your lifestyle and your diet's very important as well too. You have to make healthy choices throughout. And while we're here, we made sure that all of the breaks, all of the dinners, and all of the lunches are healthy choices for everybody here. As far as sleep, that varies, and I trained myself over the years to have REM sleep when I do sleep, or power naps are also fantastic. As far as health, the question on health, when we were married 18 years ago, we were medical students. We were the couple for the class, actually. And the first pregnancy, that's when I had my first baby in med school, and then residency, we had the other one. Both sets of parents jumped in to help us, and that really helped us to balance school, academics, career, along with family life. Later on down the road, when we were working and we could afford a little bit more, I did not want to have nannies to take care of my children throughout the day, so I opted to have a more flexible schedule after I finished training to make sure that I was there for all of their drop-offs and pickups and all of their activities, all their after-school activities. Now we just simply have a housekeeper, and we're both managing it together. Teresa?
Well, I'd actually like to ask y'all, so how many of you were raised in a home where your mother worked? Okay. And of that, how many of you had help then? Did you have a nanny or babysitter? A little bit. Well, when the kids were young, we really struggled with. I didn't know anybody who had had a nanny. My mother stayed home with us, so I really didn't know that concept. But I had one friend who was raised with two working parents, and she assured me that it would be fine. So I think the kids have all turned out pretty darn well, and I think they're better because I was really happy doing what I was doing, and we made sure that the time that we spent with them was a good time. In fact, I have to tell you one story. So Richard, who is about 12, my oldest, as I'm picking him up to take him to his brother's hockey game, he says, "Why do you both have to come to everything?" So no matter, what you do, there's going to be times they just think you're stupid and you're either not doing enough or you're there too much. So in terms of sleep, we get to bed around 11, we get up at 5:30, and it seems to work okay so far.
So I just finished my third year, and I never knew what the bottom of the totem pole meant. It's very interesting, especially having a child newborn. So basically, luckily, my mom came to Boston to help out. So be friends with your moms and your mother-in-laws. But there are times where my mom has to actually go back to Arizona. So then I have to put my child in daycare. And I will say, like, the first time putting her in daycare, I cried after I left. And also because of how expensive it is. Just in Boston, like a month of tuition, it's actually $2,500. And that's more expensive than my rent. So that's not quite affordable. So in terms of having time, especially in third year, my day sometimes starts around 5 a.m. and I don't get home around 8 p.m. There are sacrifices, but I try to spend as much time as I can with my daughter, and that entails like putting her to bed, and then in the end, like I have to wake up and study and whatnot. In third year, you will see some competitiveness with fellow classmates. And for example, there was a fellow classmate on the same team, and then we can sometimes get home by 5 p.m. But no matter where you go, you see some gunners, and they would say, "Oh, I can stay for like extra 4 hours." But then as a mom, you'd be like, "Actually, I want to go home," and that's absolutely okay as well.
Absolutely. So there is no one size fits all. Again, it depends on your own priorities and how you'd like to have it all play out. And supportive partner was key for me, you know, and family members who not only help, but it doesn't have to be blood relatives. You have to think outside of the box a little bit. You can create your own community of support from friends or other loved ones. You can choose certain members to enter your family as well too, and they can absolutely help you on that road. I mean, we never had a chance to plan our babies. It was all divine intervention to have all 4 of our babies when they came. So we had to work with it and flow with it, and don't see it as an obstacle. Make sure you have a positive mindset, and you will be successful. Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, my name is Melanie. I'm from the University of South Florida. I'm the first year.
Well,
I noticed that all 3 of you are married to your husbands are in medicine as well. And you just mentioned, of course, having a supporting partner was so helpful. In what ways would you say that it was more helpful and maybe less so, having someone who's in the same field as you?
Great question. Do you want to start, Samia?
So my husband's actually first year at Yale. Good thing about the Yale system is you don't have to show up for classes. So my husband has been very supportive because when we enter marriage, I made sure that he understood that having a child or raising a child is not solely my job. It's also his job as well. And so what he usually does is for some classes that he doesn't have to show up, he will actually stay in Boston and help take care of the child. But of course, sometimes he complains, understandably, and sometimes, like, being as a mother, you don't really trust guys with diapers or feeding them. But I'm just glad that he is understanding. I think the most important part is you guys are both on the same page, have an agreement in the very beginning.
So in 1970, the statistic was that 71% of female physicians were married to other physicians, and that was partly because the numbers were such that there were fewer women in medicine, and so that's the way it turned out. These days, those numbers are changing drastically. So whether your spouse is a physician or not doesn't really matter as long as they're a good spouse. And mine actually did do all the diapers and all the feedings and stuff. So, and that's the reason my kids slept well during the night, was because I wasn't there. So if they cried, they were going to get him in a bottle, and they said they'd rather stay asleep. So they slept through the night pretty well. So.
My goodness, well, my husband happens to be in the same field. We not only met in medical school, but we couples matched and ended up doing internal medicine training together. And then actually we were in practice together for about 5 years before, I broke away from the family mold a little bit. Like Teresa mentioned, it's not necessarily about being in the same specialty. For us, it worked really well because when I was with a trundling 6-month pregnancy belly in front of me on trauma units, he wanted to make sure that he was in the same rotation that I was to protect me. And it was wonderful that we had that interplay. He understood, the rigors of the training process and all the twists and turns that came with it. But the key is just somebody who's supportive, flexible, adaptable, hears your concerns, and you could, of course, hear theirs as well, and you work together with a back and forth relationship, complementary to each other, to make sure that you can not only make the best of the situation, but be successful as a family unit. Now, it's 18 years now since we've been married, and I thank God that he's in my life. He's been there, because I could not have done a lot of what I do without a supportive husband and family. Next question. Yes.
I'm a student from Texas Tech. My question is, if all of you had to take time off after graduating from college, would you guys do any time? And if you have any advice for your students?
Okay, Samia? Sure, absolutely. She asked if she chose to take time off, or someone chose to take time off after college. Any advice related to that, or any general advice for pre-med students?
So yes, I did take time off. But usually when you say take time off, it's not like vacation anymore. It's like you have to do something. I knew that I wanted to go into medicine at a very young age, but at the same time, I loved teaching. So I was thinking there might not be a time where I get to teach like middle schoolers and high schoolers again. So then I took 1 year to do that. At the same time, I'm really interested in policy as well, and then so that's how I decided to do the Fulbright program in Taiwan, studying the universal healthcare system. So just being on the admissions committee, if you're interested in like applying for med school, what a lot of applicants now, almost all of them actually do take time off. And there's like a shift now that about 60% of the incoming class actually took at least 2 years off. But the thing is, you have to be very wise in choosing what you want to do, because the question during interview is always, why did you choose to do this for your gap year? You can do research, whatever, but as long as it's something that you're passionate about, it cannot be just a mere resume booster. You have to just like follow your passions.
When you're pre-med or thinking about medical school, even when you're in medical school, you have to keep your eye on the prize. The prize is getting done.
Yep.
The prize is getting into med school, the prize is getting done. And you can't let anything get in the way of that. All your friends, they're going to be getting cars, they're going to be getting, in my day it was stereos, but they're going to be accumulating stuff that I couldn't do. I mean, I was living on rice and beans, and I was dating guys to go out to get a free dinner, you know? They called it having a sponsor, but it worked. Because the most important thing was getting in and getting done, and all those things you want to do, helping people, et cetera, you can get so much more accomplished when you have the MD after your name. So everything else is secondary. If it means you get your clothes from Goodwill, if it means that, you know, you don't go out, that's the way it goes, because nothing else is as important as getting this done.
Absolutely. Well, I ended up taking a year off after college before I went into med school. And that year was almost like a little bit of a turning point as well. What Teresa mentioned and Samia mentioned as well, make great use of your time. Use every opportunity to overlap networking, maybe developing relationships with mentors. You know, you want to make sure that you double overlap so that you can accomplish many things with very few moves, you know? Leading with your heart is very important. You may have some time to think about if you not only just truly want to do medicine, but maybe you want to do a combined program. Maybe you have other potential aspirations, and it's a time to think about it. But it's also time for you to build and grow and sort of step back a little bit and see who you are as a person. And then you can see the path in front of you a lot more clearly. Okay? Yes, question, Padmini. Yes.
Not a question. I just wanted to add to what you said. As somebody who was on the committee selecting medical students, one of the things we were looking for, and I got out because every Indian person used to call me up and say, like, my kid is applying for medical school. I go like, so what? It's like a totally blind thing. So I just wanted to say is that we are looking more and more for what you did and how you got your hands dirty before applying for medical school. It's just not shadowing of the physician in the ER, but you have any publications where you listed at least as a second or a third author. And if you did any global work, because of the new standards set forth by the LCME, you're looking at global because we are so globalized. So that's something I strongly encourage my students, you know, like who are in MPH or other pre-med students that come into contact with that. Make sure you take time off. Go for 3 months. There's so many programs. And the Global Health Consortium, you know,
Yes.
the CUGH, we have a whole lot of programs especially designed for pre-med students or wannabe docs. So it's different. I mean, like I think Teresa, when you and I did medicine, it was kind of different. And you know, Shelley here from Canada, so Dr. Ross. But now it's like, it's a whole thing. And again, a lot of students are in the MD, MPH, or the MD, PhD. So that's something you need to look at. And just as Farzana said, and Teresa, like, you know, don't lose focus. It doesn't matter. it's worth it. If that's what you want to do, get your butt out there and do it.
Absolutely. Let the passion drive you. Now, if you've already trained and you're a physician and you want to take time off because you had your baby and you said, I want to spend time with my little guy, my little girl, do it. Do it if you want to do it. Know that it's totally up to you if you want to do that. But remember again to keep your foot in medicine at all points in time. Never lose that clinical thread. Because if you do, it's a little harder to get back into it. And that's sort of been the general set of comments from women who've taken a longer stretch of time off after they've trained and maybe after they're in clinical practice. So it can be done. Just think carefully about how you want to navigate that road. I see your head shaking. Do you want to add any comments to that? Oh, you just turned around. No, okay, excellent. Questions? Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Hi, my name is Amaryllis, and I'm finished my second year of medical school. It was mentioned, the goal is to finish medical school, and that's definitely on my mind, but I also, in addition to being a great physician, I want to be a great leader. I want to do other things. How do I balance I have to finish medical school with, what about all these other great opportunities and things, and how do I do that?
Fold it into your world. Because when I was in medical school, I threw myself into leadership as well. And yes, I was pregnant, and yes, I was newly married, and I had all these other pots on the burn at the same time, but there is a technique of overlapping your duties. Many medical schools actually, mandate that you do get involved in a leadership role in some arena, and use that opportunity to refine your career path as a leader in medicine. But you have to choose which path you'd like to go down. Just you have to know yourself very well in order for you to go down the right path. Teresa?
So, yes, getting very involved in medical school is helpful. The thing, though, is that I had to pull myself back because there was a mentoring program to help teach the local high school kids and the middle school kids their science and stuff. And as much as I really loved doing that, I had to stop myself at some point because it was interrupting too much with my studies. So I needed to be able to do some leadership things, but be able to pull back when necessary, and for myself to know that. I liked being an officer, and we called it SCOM, it's Students for Equal Opportunities in Medicine, because it worked around my school time, so I could take leadership roles that way. But outside of school, I really had to make sure that I wasn't getting overtaxed and overburdened, because it was much more fun to go sit and help a middle schooler learn their math than it was for me to study my neurology. And that I just had to make sure I tempered it a bit.
Samia?
Thank you for the question. So I started out thinking that I would do MD, PhD in public policy. So I did get accepted into the program. When I had my child, I actually deferred the program because I wasn't sure, do I really want to spend extra 5 years in getting my PhD? I think this whole idea is very fluid. It is constantly changing at the same time. It's very hard to plan and be like, oh, it will go out this way. So I definitely urge everyone to have like an open mind and be ready to change your plans as well. And in the end, I just feel like maybe what I do does not really necessarily warrant a PhD in order to do that. So then I just started doing the master's. But definitely like there are times where you have to choose something, but choose very wisely to see how is it congruent to your goals and how to use your time very wisely.
Those are excellent points. The ability to be adaptable and flexible is paramount really, to truly being flexible and having good work-life balance. You also mentioned, yes. Oh, sure. Oh, you have a question? Yes. Yes, sure, go for it.
I'm Kathy McDermott from Minnesota, president of the Minnesota Biological Society, and we have all these issues in our room too. The thing that we always say is, you can do it all, but you can't do it all at the same time. And I think you have to say, what's important to me right now? The other thing is, be able to say no. You don't have to say yes to everything. Say yes to what you want to do. The other thing is, does this have to be done now? And there's lots of ways to go about this, but I just wanted to point it out.
Great comments, absolutely. Prioritization is very, very important, and delegation. You can delegate. That's one of the reasons we ended up having a housekeeper. I did not want to do the laundry or clean the home. I would rather spend the time with my kids and do, their activities with them, or just spend that quality family time together. So later on down the road, if you can afford certain things, go for it. If you can't, and you have family members who are lending their support, accept it, and make sure you grow and build on that. Comment? Question? Yes, Eleanor.
I think the important thing about in your mind and your career is being able to change your priorities and your schedule and your seasons at the stages of your life. When my children were preschool age, I chose to work part-time because I would work 2 or 3 hours a day in an inner city community clinic that needed professional help. And then they were willing to set me on my terms, how many hours a day or a week I wish to work. Then when my children were in school, I decided to do college help. So I could have summers off and December off, matching my children's schedules. And I worked from 9 to 12 and 1 to 3. And it was very exciting and very satisfying. And then when my husband reached age 12, I went back to full-time. So I think being able to adapt and adjust to different stages of your life can be very helpful.
Excellent points, Eleanor. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Get into the nitty-gritty if you have to. Come on. Yes, Connie.
So, you've all had really charmed lives. You're married, you have children, you have a great career. So what about the woman who's now in her 30s? She still hasn't found a person to spend life with her and what do you say with introduce your knowledge of people who are squeezing over their heads?
Great question. Sami, do you want to start off, or would you like me to start off? Okay, no problem. Well, our lives, my life I can speak about. Certainly not charmed completely, 100, not at all. I've had torrential downpours many a time. And that, yes, the question. Connie, let me.
It's about a woman who is older and still wants to have children but hasn't met the right person. Should she think about freezing her eggs?
Oh, the freezing, okay. Freezing her eggs. Well, when I went to Yale Law School a couple months ago to speak, that question was raised as well. Like, Dr. Hafizullah, you had your kids, but a lot of us now, we're concerned because, we're in the middle of the training process. We don't have a partner. We're worried that our childbearing years will pass by and we wouldn't have a chance to have a baby. So absolutely, you certainly can freeze your eggs. There's so much technology today that can allow you to have your babies a little bit later on down the road. If you haven't had a partner, stop focusing in on that. Focus on yourself. Focus on really loving what you're doing and truly leading with your heart. And if something is meant to be, it will happen. You cannot force a situation. You can't, force a partner to come into your life if it's not meant to be at that particular time. And don't ever live with regrets. Make sure that you are living the happiest you can live for what you have on your plate at that particular time. I have a lot of students who come to me and ask me those questions all the time, and I let them know that you have to find happiness in yourself first, and then the universe listens to what you ask for. If you don't just visualize it, but you speak it, and then you act, on those particular thoughts, you will find that things will come your way. Teresa?
So I'd be curious as to, have any of you all thought about that? And what have your thoughts been? Would you not?
So I am sort of that scenario. I'm in my 30s, I'm 32. I just finished my second year of medical school. I have not found anyone at this point, and my focus right now is school. And so I thought about freezing my eggs, which sounds like a great idea, but there are other circumstances and challenges, because I've heard that it's like $5,000, and I'm on loan, so it's kind of a difficult situation. So I've definitely thought about it, but at this point, it's kind of, I'm sort of leaving it up to the universe, I guess.
Teresa, did you have other comments? Sammy?
Thinking about it, we would like to, how do we see that we have
Okay, well, you know, when I spoke at Yale and we brought up the price issue as well, we were talking about, you know, maybe some advocacy efforts to help fund some of the egg freezing efforts, or at least for students who might be a little bit older and who feel like they're on this career path, but they may not be ready to have children yet. But then you also have to think about the other hormonal issues that happen a little bit later on that may not give you the very best environment to have your baby nurture and grow. So there are many factors that are involved, but if you sit and think about it and analyze it completely to the hilt, years will pass by. So you have to be definitive, and if you do make a mistake, it's a wonderful thing sometimes. You will learn from it. Obstacles are sometimes opportunities for refinement, or failures. You learn the most sometimes from failures. So again, there's no one size fits all. Just don't live with regrets and make sure that you are informed about all the choices that you have. Yes, Lana Lee, as an OBGYN. Yes.
So I'm Lana Lee Sale, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, and practicing for 17 years now. One of the things, so I have to sort of, this is the women's group, so I'm going to have to espouse my conspiracy theories on these freezing the egg things. So I have a little bit of an issue with it. The biggest demographic for pregnancy is over 35-year-old women. So my practice almost entirely is 35 to 47-year-old women having their first baby. And they're doing well, and they're doing fine. And that is not, and the book that I'm trying to write in my spare time is, you know, over 35 pregnancy, it's okay. You know, AMA pregnancy, it's okay. There's all these fantasies, and I really, really believe that the whole in vitro fertilization industry is pushing this program of freeze your eggs. I've got 28-year-olds coming in panicking about the fact that their eggs are shriveling at them as we speak. Okay, this is a big money, billion-dollar industry, and all of us have all kinds of stress and panic and moments of worry that it's coming up. Again, yeah, so that's my issue with it. Do I think that I'm not going to say go out and freeze your eggs to everybody, because I see 35 to 47-year-old non-IVF pregnancies doing absolutely fine. Your eggs are not dying as we speak, they're fine.
Yes, look at Hollywood, right? Look at Hollywood.
It's a brilliant strategy, which is, hey, freeze your eggs, and I'm sure if you guys pay attention, you're going to see the marketing. The marketing push is going to get stronger and stronger, and it's going to say freeze your eggs earlier and earlier. The earlier you freeze them, the better they'll be. The earlier you freeze them, that's the more money that they're making every year for storing your frozen eggs. Think about that. And then, so you freeze them at 25 because you want your peak frozen egg when you were the smartest you could possibly be. And 10 years later, 35, 36, 11 years after you've been paying monthly for 11 years into this fund, it doesn't work. Oh, wasn't our fault, or the cryo tank died, or you just don't know with this freezing technology. And what can you say? There's no guarantees on that. So that's my conspiracy theory for the moment. I got a whole bunch of, I gotta get one more. Pap smears. Used to be every year, right? Gotta get them. Some of the male OB-GYNs would even insist on people getting them twice a year. Now, as more and more women are now OB-GYNs, have you noticed that the length of pap smears is now every 2 years, every 3 years, because the men aren't making money off of it. They don't care anymore. So it's no longer that important, and it gets stretched out. That's my other conspiracy.
Thank you, Lana Lee. Excellent. Well, we have run out of time, but we are here all weekend. And we want to make sure that you can get one-on-one Q&As with each of the leaders, each of the members, support each other, and make sure that we can together move mountains, like our Mount Kilimanjaro expert who just climbed Mount Kilimanjaro over here. We can do it. We as women, we're full of resources, but we're multi-talented, and we can multitask. It's inbuilt into who we are as people. So we wish you great success. We're off to another board meeting, but please, I hope you've registered already. If you haven't, take a look at the agenda. We have an impressive lineup of speakers. Tomorrow we'll have an opening ceremony. We're looking forward to seeing you all then. Thank you so much. Yes, Teresa.